is Sabrina Paganoni. My name is Sabrina Paganoni, and I am here at the HEALEY Center. This is our weekly webinar update for February. We have a guest speaker today, which I'm very excited to have here. As you know, we have been having our site PIs come and talk to us about their site. So today we had Dr. Ximena Arcila-Londono, who will introduce her site to us. So if we can go to the next slide. We can move to the next slide, and here Dr. Arcila-Londono is the PI at the Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit, Michigan. So we're very excited to have her here today. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Sabrina, Merit, the HEALEY team and the platform trial team for having me. Very excited to just tell you a little bit about our sites. Thank you. The next slide, please. So we are, our center is located within Henry Ford Hospital, which is located in the Detroit Smithtown. It was founded by Mr. Henry Ford in 1950. So yes, we were founded by him. And no, we're not owned by the company any longer. It just took on its own after its founder. So we are one of the largest teaching hospitals of the country. We are a level 1 trauma center, and we are at a 877 tertiary care hospital. And we enjoy to celebrate the diversity of our community. As you guys may know, Detroit has a lot of diversity of different populations, and is also represented within our staff. So next slide, please. So we mentor medical students from Wayne State University, and something recent hot off the press is that as part of the Henry Ford Health System, which Henry Ford is the biggest hospital from, we enter into a 3-year partnership with Michigan State University. So it has not been decided because Henry Ford is blue and Wayne State is green, what colors are they going to stay or whatever, but I'll suppose we'll have to wait and see. And this is just a side view from the hospital within Detroit. Thank you for the next slide. So we have a very big neuromuscular team. We are proud to treat a variety of conditions, which include ALS, myasthenia, neuropathies, myopathies, and related neuromuscular disorders, not only within Detroit, but we also have different locations within the Detroit metro area. We are certified by the ANEM electrodiagnostic lab in 6 different locations. And we also have a board certified neurophysiology fellowship, which we continue to support. So this is just a shot of all our electromyographies. Most of them do also do clinic, and some of us have special interests like Dr. Stalin and myself, which are the first 2 out there. We are currently doing the ALS clinic, and I'll tell you just a little bit more in the next couple of slides. Please. So this is an older picture pre-COVID, so that's why we're all without masks together. So down at the bottom, there's the Henry Ford Clinic cannot be named without Dr. Daniel Newman, which actually ran the clinic for 33 years. Last year, he just retired from outpatient clinical practice, and I've been working alongside for him for around 10 years. So I'm continuing the legacy of the clinic. So we're actually the second we were actually the second ALS certified clinic within the country. That's something that we like to say. We are one of the oldest, and we are actually a referral center, a known and well referred center within Southeast Michigan. We get referrals all throughout Michigan, and also we've had a few from the Ohio site. And we follow about more than 300 ALS patients in our multidisciplinary clinic last year. This is, so we'll have the next slide. So our clinic, because of COVID, and I was just thinking, oh my God, we have not taken any pictures recently. So this is one of the most recent pictures on the top. which we had our physical therapist, our speech pathologist, myself, and one of the center, and one of our clinic, our research team members, Randy Bird, he's our clinic coordinator, and Megan, he is our nutritionist. So we have a full multidisciplinary clinic. We're proud to take care of our patients, and we strive to provide excellent clinical care. One of our goals is that to support the patients through their journey, at their own space. And one of the things I said is, we will support you through the process, and you take every single decision, and we're here to support your decisions, whichever there may be. And there on the bottom, on the side, are our three very important team members, which are Beverly, Kate, and Anne. Beverly and Kate are nurses, and Anne has a bachelor's, and they've been instrumental on putting and maintaining, the platform trial at our site. We could not do them without it. Because we're also, one of our goals to continue to offer our patients the opportunity to participate in clinical research. And we are one of the centers of the platform trial. So that's just a little bit of us in a nutshell. And our clinic, it's named after one of its biggest donor, Harry J. Hansler, the clinic, his wife donated money to establish a clinic on his honor. So we're in debt to her generosity. And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And actually, there is a question for you. I'll give an update on the platform trial, but because you're here as a guest speaker, there was a question specifically, about Tofersen, the Tofersen expanded access. Can you tell us more about your participation and involvement?
So actually, not a lot of centers across the country are doing the expanded access. It is been a slow process because of different reasons. We needed to do the paperwork within our center. We needed to put all the information together I had to line up everything with the system. It's a little bit more difficult than actually entering a new medication, which this is a non-FDA approved medication. So I had to line up radiology, pharmacy, IR, FDA, then IRB once I got at everything. So we're doing it as fast as we can. And yes, it's not been as much as a fast process as we wish it would be, but we're doing everything one thing by one, and that's the best we can do it, that we're doing our best.
Yeah, and also we also set up, there was another question about how we set up the Tofersen at our site. And I mean, for us, again, was a lot of support from philanthropy, and again, that they helped with that. So again, many of these costs and processes are not covered by current, processes. So each site needs to find, I guess, creative ways of making things like the Tofersen EAP available at their own site. So question, again, for you related to your center, can you tell us more about what treatments or therapies you offer at your clinic? So tell us a little bit more about the clinical care, perhaps, that you offer.
So we offer both the FDA approved medications for ALS, including Riluzole, Rilotec, and Radicava. We offer our patients the opportunity, to have the medication, and they choose whether or not they want to continue one or both medications. We strive to have a great multidisciplinary care. So we have which we provide, and studies have shown that multidisciplinary care improves both quality of life and survival. So we continue to provide that. We also have now 3 pulmonologists that alternate and help us take care of our patients, not only within Metro Detroit, but in the metropolitan area with the use and trying to optimize the use of non-invasive ventilation, which it improves quality of life and survival in our patients. So we have the best available multidisciplinary care that it's at present. So that's what we have right now.
Yeah. And then a question about certified centers. Can you tell us more about your certification? And maybe, I don't know if you have numbers, we can look them up, but basically how many certified centers are there in the country? What's special about it? Tell us more about it.
So yeah, so there are mainly 2 types of multidisciplinary clinics around the country. Some of them are ALSA, the ALS Association certified. I look at the numbers, Sabrina, I think last year or the year before, it was like 20, at least 24, and they may be a little bit more now. And basically the ALS Association has a process in which, they revise the clinics to be sure that we're providing the most up-to-date, AN clinical care for our patients, and that's who our clinic is. So yeah. we are an ALSA certified clinics. There are other clinics that can be muscular dystrophy associations, and they also provide great ALS care, and some of them are both. So we are a ALS certified center, an ALSA certified center.
Yeah, exactly. Just to kind of take a step back, there are different certification processes through the ALS Association. That's one, and many clinics are certified through that process. Some clinics are certified by the Muscular Dystrophy Association. There are also other clinics that are supported by other groups, and there are clinics at the VA, the Veterans Administration centers as well. I believe that the list, somebody asked about specific sites, if they are certified or not. I believe that the list of certified clinics is actually available on the ALS Association website. Same goes for the centers that are certified by the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So if, whoever has questions about, which center is sort of certified with which kind of group, you can find that online. Okay, so let's move on. Maybe in the interest of time, just wanted to make sure that we also provide weekly updates on the regimens, where we stand. So if we can go to the next slide. As you know, at this time, all the sites that are participating, such as Henry Ford and other sites, are participating in the testing of multiple drugs. So so far, we have enrolled and completed enrollment for the first 4 drugs, regimens A, B, C, and D. The names are here on the slide. I see many new people. So just to kind of, briefly summarize, many new people in the audience. So I just wanted to summarize that we started the trial with the first 3 drugs, A, B, and C. Then we added drug number 4, or regimen D, and now we are launching now in 2022 with the 5th drug, regimen E. So the way this works is that different people receive different drugs, but all centers basically participate in all the or most of the regimen treatments. And so at any given center, there could be a mix of people that receive drug A, B, C, D, and very soon drug E. And people who participate in the trial participate in the placebo-controlled portion of the trial, which is the first period, 6 months, and then go on open label extension. And why am I saying this? I just want to kind of talk about the timelines and how this is going to work and what to expect in 2022. So last week we said, there were a few questions about timelines and when we're going to get results. So I want to explain again, first of all, for the new people who are following us for the first time today, how this works in general, and then we can dive into the timelines. So at all the 50 plus centers like Henry Ford and others who are participating, right now we're testing, again, we have many people on regimen A, B, C, and D, about 160 people per regimen. So total, over 4 regimens, we're talking of several hundred participants who have enrolled in the placebo-controlled trial. And of these, almost 400 have already completed the 6 months of placebo-controlled trial and have moved on to the open label extension. So any individual site or any physician, for example, Dr. Arcila, who is here today, she will have a few people who are enrolled in regimens A, B, C, and D in the double blind, as well as people in the open label extension. And then soon the sites will open for regimen E. So in 2022, we want to do two things. Number one, we want to have the results of regimens A, B, C, and D. So the first 4 that were started, we plan to have results in 2022. And then at the same time, we also want to open new spots for regimen E so that new people, new participants can be enrolled, have a spot in the trial, and we want to complete enrollment for the regimen as well. So let's focus now on the first 4 regimens, A, B, C, and D, which are the ones that, as you know, from previous webinars or press releases, have already completed the enrollment. So if we can go to the next slide, this is a high-level snapshot of the study results timelines. And I'm going to walk you through this because it's a little bit complex and detailed, but we wanted to show you all the data, what we're looking at, from the point of view of study team. First of all, big disclaimer, as you may imagine, the COVID-19 pandemic, which seems to be getting better, but still, we don't know the future. And so COVID-19 related disruptions might actually impact these estimates in a negative direction, meaning that, as you know, there are supply chain difficulties and staffing issues across multiple industries, and especially healthcare and research. And therefore, we're sharing what our estimates are, our best estimates. This is what we're working with right now, but they might change. Now, if we divide 2022 in 4 quarters, we expect the last participant last visit in the randomized placebo-controlled portion or period of the trial to happen around Q2. Now that depends between March and July, to be more precise. Now, as you can see, it's a large, it's kind of a certain range that depends on the regimen and what happens to the last few participants in each regimen. So let me explain. I told you that, first of all, the first 3 regimens started together as a group, and then the 4th regimen started later. So we expect the first 3 regimens to end earlier, by definition, than the number 4, which started a little bit later. The other issue here is that if participants, the last few participants in each regimen, if they decide to enter the open label extension, which we certainly encourage if that's something that they desire to do, they will not have a final safety call that's mandated by the protocol for safety reasons. Instead, if they don't enter the open label extension, we need to have this final safety call. And so because of that, that will impact the time when they have the last visit. I know this gets a little bit in the weeds of the protocol, but essentially the timelines are affected by a number of things. Again, the regimen and the choices of the last few participants. Assuming, but again, that's the range that we expect. At the latest, again, it would be July 2022. Now, after all the data comes in, and keep in mind that people will continue to stay in the open label extension. So here I'm just referring to the double-blind portion, the placebo-controlled portion of the trial. Now, after the last patient last visit, we need to continue to clean all the data, organize all the data. We already started doing that, but it's several hundred participants at 50 plus sites. So there is a whole process of looking at the data, verifying the data. It gets to be monitored and enter into the database in very specific ways. And so we expect then to be done with the entire data cleaning process and sort of categorization of the data between May and September. That's when we can achieve the so-called database lock. Now, this will follow last patient, last visit by a few weeks. And again, because there is a range, that's why there is a range that's carried through the database lock, May through September 2022. Now, depending on when that exactly happens, then we will be able to analyze the data. So the data will be reported as usual for clinical trials. It's a large amount of data. As you know, we have a primary endpoint. We discussed that in previous meetings, and then we have a lot of biomarkers and other additional information that's still important. So the top line results, basically the primary analysis, we expect them to become available depending on the regimen between July and September 2022. That's essentially the bottom line, like the most important results. However, I do want to point out that the biomarkers and all the extra information that we are collecting is also very important. And so we expect to have the final analysis of all these additional data, essentially by the end of the year. So again, top line results, which is whether the drug, sort of had an impact on and modified disease progression, we expected earlier, but then the full data sets with all the reports, etc., are expected for, by the end of the year, Q4 of 2022. So I hope that clarifies sort of the expectations in general in terms of the timelines. Obviously, we are already starting to plan presentations and papers and publications. Everything needs to be analyzed in a very, very rigorous manner. And so essentially, we're already working on all of that. But obviously, we don't know the results until we get there. So we won't be able to even start the analysis until the database has been locked. Locked means that you can no longer change the data. So you need to have to collect all the data as you're doing the trial, clean the data, monitor the data, make sure that the data is solid and there's nothing else that needs to be added. And then you lock the database. It's almost like you close the door in a sense that the data becomes final and you cannot modify that after that. So that's why it's so important to do a lot of data cleaning and make sure that everything is, exactly the way it should be. And then we can analyze. So that's the process. So, again, the top line results should be available in Q3 of 2022, and then the final study results in Q4. Next slide. So at the same time, we are launching a new regimen because obviously we want to give spots for patients who want to enroll now to test other drugs. At this time, we have 7 centers that have been activated for regimen E, the 5th drug. That means that these centers are already able to screen participants to enter regimen E. There's a few other sites that are close to activation, and then the other ones will follow after that. There is sort of like, we have to pace that because of drug delivery and making sure the sites have the drug. There have been, as we discussed in previous calls, some delays, again, due to COVID, due to supply shortages, but we have the drug. We're just kind of, rolling it out in a controlled manner so that we never run out of drug or have any issues with the drug supply. Next slide. And we will continue to keep the website up to date, so you can always check which sites are recruiting for regimen E. Now, the other ones that are not recruiting yet, they're still active. That doesn't mean that their job has finished. As I told you before, they're working hard, number one, to provide all the data for the analysis according to the timelines that I just shared. And number two, they're also continuing to keep participants who want to be in the open label extension, active in the open label extension. And the open label extension itself will have another sort of analysis and lock later because it's sort of longer time frame. Next slide. And if you have any questions, as always, thank you to Alison and Catherine for being with us today on the webinar. And they're also available to connect with you by email or phone. And those are helpful QR codes and reminders of upcoming guests. So with that, I think we can stop sharing. And so I know that there's always, sort of many questions. I'm going to start to take a few in terms of the just because I spoke about top line data, etc. So there will be press releases and conferences. So we are really committed to sharing the results essentially as soon as they are available. And in terms of whether that could help approval for the drugs, obviously that will depend on the results. But if there are very positive results, then the data is being collected, managed and analyzed in a way that would be supportive of an application to the FDA. There's a question about sort of is the data analysis automated? I do want to mention that there are teams of statisticians that have already built all the sort of analysis pipelines, etc. There's a very complex statistical software that's analyzing all of this. So the data is, the analysis is sort of automated, but there is a lot of processes that has to go into this first to clean the data and make sure that the data is sort of exactly, you know, perfect, basically. And the question, there's a question about what happens after we know the results of the randomized placebo-controlled data. What happens to the open label extension? That's a great question. So essentially, so we're continuing the open label extension until we know the results, because we want to give that option to people who want to have access to the drugs. Now, after the results of the placebo-controlled trial are released, then, you know, the fate of the open label extension will depend on the results. So essentially, if the results are negative, there's no point in continuing. If the results are positive, we will do everything we can to continue them. And in terms of, you know, other people who are not in the trial being able to get access to the successful drugs, that was another question. So that will, again, that will depend on sort of the results. But if the drug is positive, then we, you know, again, the way the data has been analyzed and packaged and sort of, you know, the results put together, it will be conducive, if the results are very positive, to essentially, you know, to go directly into, you know, regulatory submissions, and that will facilitate, hopefully, access to people who are not in the trial if the drugs are positive. Now, there is a the volume of questions that are coming in. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of a hard time keeping track, so I'm trying to do my best to capture them, because there's again many questions coming in at the same time. So a question about, you know, if somebody is on the open label extension, and there's a question about, you know, kind of how long does it take to see an effect, if there is one? How can you tell if the drug you are responding to the drug or not? Well, I would say that, you know, it's very hard to tell in general, or to predict in general, because different drugs have different effects, and again, it might take time to have an effect. The question is, for how long should one try? Well, it's interesting. We don't fully know, but we know that in the context of trials, you know, a 6-month trial is the shortest possible that we can have to really tell if the drug is effective or not, because of the variability in the disease. So I think it's, you know, it's I would suggest that people talk to their physician in terms of, you know, when they are in the open label extension, is there any positive effect on their disease or not? It's hard to judge sort of in general. I think it's important to talk to your physician. Now, there's a lot of questions actually for you, Dr. Arcila. Do you have other clinical trials?
So I saw the question. So we don't have any trials that has been initiated by Henry Ford itself. We are a clinical site for currently. We were a clinical trial for Valor, the tofersen trial, and we are also aside from the platform trial, we are a site for the Rendeseltiv, the cytokinetics trial. So those are the actual active trials that we have, platform and the one by the company Cytokinetics.
Great, thank you. There's also a question about, you know, the sort of the type of analysis that I described. You know, the question, kind of, you know, the way we collect the data, analyze the data. The question is, are you the only ones doing this particular type of testing, or, you know, I guess, is this sort of industry standard? So just wanted to clarify the way we are collecting the data, monitoring the data, and analyzing the results is according to the highest possible industry standards. Why is that important? That's important because if we have a positive trial, we want the data, and not just the data, but the processes surrounding the data, to be as robust as possible, again, to facilitate those FDA submissions and as rapid access as possible to the drug in case of a possible event, so it's positive results. So essentially, we have built an infrastructure that's right now absolutely top-notch in terms of data quality, data cleaning, monitoring, analysis with all the latest in statistics, etc. And the reason I say that, I mean, really, this is this takes a large team and takes a lot of work to do it and conduct this analysis. And it's important because, again, either you plan these things up front and you plan for a possible positive result, or then it's hard to proceed with FDA submissions, which has, you know, again, other trials didn't have that in the past. And so that has been a problem. So I think it's very important that, you know, the reason we wanted to disclose kind of all the work that goes on kind of on the back end is, again, to share the excitement that we have that you know, the study is using all the latest. And so we've been in contact, you know, with all organizations as needed to make sure that all the processes are absolutely top notch. In terms of moving forward, maybe I'll take this one as a last question, and maybe Dr. Arcila, I'll ask you also for a final comment. But, you know, one question about sort of, you know, how does, you know, the fact that now we have had 4 regimens, A, B, C, and D, and now we're going to one regimen, E only. I mean, does that change, I guess, the trial in any way? So I would say yes and no. I mean, there's been in other platform trials in oncology that they've seen this, like, you know, where at times you have more drugs, at times you have fewer drugs. Ideally, we would really love to have 2 or 3 drugs open at any given time, for the reason that we would love to offer patients more options. And so that, you know, we can also enroll more patients at any given time. Having said that, having one regimen doesn't affect the statistics or the trial. Again, it's just a matter of sort of, you know, can we have more options for patients at any given time? And we're working in that direction. We're working with 3 companies again. So I expect there will be a second batch, if you will, of a few regimens that open together. We're now at this point, again, we only have one, but, you know, as you know, it's 2022 has other things happening in ALS. So I think in a way it's good that, you know, so that we have the first few regimens, you know, now regimen E, which is also a great one. And then, you know, we're gonna probably have more in the second part of the year, but, you know, there's new approvals that are expected in 2022, etc. So I think in a way it's good that so that we reboot after that. Hopefully the standard of care will change with new approvals. Okay, so Dr. Arcila, any last comments before we end?
It's been a slow process, you know, for all of us. It's been a lot of work. So, you know, thank you to the HEALEY team, and you know, and you, Sabrina, you've been doing a lot of work on this. So thank you for that. And there are a lot of teams across the country really working so we can get the best recruitment, you know, in the least amount of time, so we get the results the fastest we can. So I can speak for all your dedication. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. Obviously, we couldn't be doing this without all the participants and their families and the patients who are referring participants to us. So thank you for that. Again, I'm very confident that the processes that we have put in place also in terms of time, they're very, very stringent in terms of data monitoring and quality, but that's for a good reason, right? So that if we have a good result, we can submit the data for regulatory approval, which ultimately we want to support as soon as possible. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week. And I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but we had a very large number. So please email Catherine and Alison, and we'll try to get to that or next week at the next webinar. Thank you. Thank you so much.